Okay, picture this. The Wild West. What comes to mind? Maybe dusty shootouts. But what about justice when there's barely a lawman in sight? Or what roles did women really play beyond the stereotype?
Right, it's often much more complex than the movies suggest.
Exactly, and that's what we're diving into today. We're digging into some fantastic source material you, our listener, sent us. Excerpts from Beatles Pocket Library, hashtag 57 Deadwood Dick on Deck, or our Calamity Jane, the heroine of Whoop Up, from 1885, no less.
Yeah, this is a dime novel, pure fiction from the era, but it gives us such a vivid snapshot, doesn't it? Set in the Black Hills during a gold rush. High stakes, rough characters.
Totally. And our mission today, to unpack the beginning of this story, we're talking the Black Hills setting, this town called Whoop Up, and some pretty intriguing characters popping up right away. Calamity Jane, but maybe not how you'd expect.
And Colonel Joe Tubbs, a real character, and this quiet miner named Sandy. The story kicks off with a mysterious song on an August night. Okay, let's start there. This song, it's described as, like, wild, rollicking harmony of weird music. Sounds pretty out there.
It does. But the voice, it says, is cultivated. Not what you'd expect drifting through a mining camp.
And then the reveal. It's a woman. A woman who, as Colonel Joe Tubbs puts it, quite colorfully, wears the breeches.
Calamity Jane herself.
And Tubbs jumps right in to defend her, calls her a brick, warns everyone she's no fool if she do wear breeches. That's pretty bold for the time, right? A woman dressing like a man.
Oh, absolutely. It's a direct challenge to norms. And Tubbs' defense is immediate. It hints at the kind of, well, judgments people might make, but also that maybe things are a bit different out there in the hills.
Sandy, the quiet guy, he actually questions it, doesn't he? Asks why a woman would sort of lower her sex like that.
He does, which shows those conventional attitudes were definitely still present. But Tubbs pushes back. He talks about her grit, hints that, life out there for women wasn't easy. Maybe it was about survival, not just choice. Yeah, practicality maybe. And Tubbs, he seems to know a lot, or at least he shares a lot of stories about her. Rumors, really.
Right, whispers about Virginia City, maybe a broken heart, or escaping a violent husband in Nevada. Tales from Deadwood, Hayward. It paints a picture of a pretty wild life.
But underneath all that, Tubbs seems convinced she's fundamentally good. He even connects it back to memories of his wife and daughter. That adds a layer, doesn't it? Makes Tubbs more than just some loudmouth.
It really does. It grounds his opinion. He even hedges on whether she's pretty, saying he learned his lesson about commenting on that. So he's seen a thing or two.
He sounds like he has, and despite all the rough stories, the drinking, gambling, shooting, Tubbs believes she has honor left with her grit.
Which is a fascinating statement in itself. Honor and grit side by side.
And speaking of grit, how about that entrance into Deadwood? Standing on an unsaddled horse.
Oh, the cayuse. Yeah, galloping full tilt, leaping obstacles. Jane just standing there, whooping like a Comanche warrior, it says.
Can you imagine seeing that in this brand new rough town? Talk about making an entrance.
It's pure theater, almost. Instantly legendary. It tells everyone, don't mess with me, I don't play by your rules.
But it's not just for show, is it? There's real danger. Later, she gets ambushed. 4 figures jump her.
Yeah, gunfire, a defiant cry from her, and then she escapes, laughing, even in the face of death. That audacity.
And she's immediately thinking, who was that?
Rules out Deadwood Dick's crew, apparently. So, enemies everywhere. Constant vigilance needed.
It really underscores the volatility.
Yeah.
Danger could be anywhere. Which brings us, actually, to a very different kind of character. Sandy.
Right, the quiet miner. Tubbs calls him a queer stick. Quiet, unobtrusive, like a crippled cat, he says. But
potentially with the sleeping tiger inside. I love that description.
Me too. It's such a contrast to Calamity Jane's whole vibe.
Totally. And it makes you wonder, right, is he just naturally quiet, or is there something more, something hidden? Tubbs seems to sense that potential, even though he's so different himself. The story gives us a bit more on Sandy's appearance. Stalwart, iron-cast build, plain but attractive face, yellow mustache, dusky eyes, longish light hair, simple buckskin clothes.
Not flashy, practical, admirable, enviable even, it says, but definitely reserved. He carries a rifle, but otherwise seems pretty unassuming.
And Tubbs admits, even after prospecting together for months, he barely knows the guy. Just that he's supposedly from New York and seems square.
The mystery deepens. Why New York to the Black Hills? Why so secretive?
Well, we get a clue about his character, maybe, when he finds someone. He's out hunting one morning, September sun, got his dog Buffalo with him.
Right, the Newfoundland. Good dog.
He stops for a rest, takes in the view,
Yeah.
and it's Buffalo the dog who spots something down below in some bushes.
Good old Buffalo. Sandy doesn't see it at first, but the dog insists, keeps looking at this one spot.
And then Sandy sees it, an arm sticking out.
Whoa, just lying there.
Yeah. They investigate and find this plump, graceful form, asleep. Looks like a boy, maybe 18. Pretty face, no beard, chestnut hair, dressed in frontier clothes.
But no weapons visible, just asleep in the wilderness. Which is odd, right? Vulnerable.
Very. And Sandy's reaction is key here, I think. He doesn't hesitate. He's protective straight away.
Even though he has no idea who this person is?
Nope. He nicknames them Dusty Dick. Bit of dust on their clothes, apparently, and just decides, okay, you're my pard now.
Wow. Just like that. And he even thinks about how to maintain the disguise, right? Suggests a fake mustache. Puts them on domestic duties.
Yeah, cooking, a bit of mining, trying to keep things low-key, avoid suspicion. It shows a surprising kindness, maybe, especially for someone described as so reserved.
It really does. Maybe that sleeping tiger isn't just about toughness, but also about compassion. And this Dusty Dick is grateful, but worried about causing trouble for Sandy, compromising his honor.
But Sandy brushes it off. We're pards now. Tells them just to call him Sandy, and he'll call them Dick. Simple as that. Sets up this immediate, close bond.
But still totally mysterious. Who is Dusty Dick?
We don't know yet. But the story shifts focus a bit then to the town, Whoop Up, and another intriguing woman, Madame Minnie.
Ah, yes, the proprietress of the castle garden. Beautiful, apparently has all the men in town falling over themselves. Sandy knows her, politely.
She represents a different kind of influence, maybe. Not with guns or grit, but with allure, charm.
Definitely. But she's sharp, too. She gets suspicious about Dusty Dick. Thinks maybe it's a woman.
And she confronts Sandy about it. How does that go down?
Quite a scene. Sandy acts completely shocked. Like, a woman, my pard. No way. He even offers to call Dick out to prove it.
Bluffing.
Seems like it. Because Madame Minnie immediately backs down. Says, oh no, don't. I'd be mortified if I was wrong.
Smooth move by Sandy.
Oh, no.
But does she really buy it?
Not for a second. Her private thoughts reveal she's totally onto the disguise. But she has her own plans.
Yeah. Oh. Which are?
She's got her eyes on Sandy, thinks he's the only decent man around, worth 2 rows of pins, and she plans to get a marriage proposal out of him within the month.
Whoa. Okay, so Sandy dodged one bullet with the secret only to walk into another kind of situation.
Pretty much. Adds a whole new layer of complication. Meanwhile, back at the shanty.
Dusty Dick is getting worried.
Yeah, expresses a fear of Madame Minnie specifically. Says they have a premonition of betrayal. Feels vulnerable.
Understandable. Living a lie like that. Constant fear of discovery.
And Sandy tries to comfort them, reassure them. And then he makes his joke. Maybe not the best timing.
Uh-oh. What does he say?
He kind of jokes that if the disguise gets blown, maybe they could just get married as an alternative.
Oof. How does that land?
Badly. Really badly. Dusty Dick has this strong, pained reaction. Says they could never marry you nor anyone.
Wow. Okay. That's significant. That hints at something much deeper, doesn't it? A really serious secret.
Absolutely. And Sandy picks up on that. He respects the reaction, acknowledges they both have secrets, actually. It deepens their connection, but also the mystery surrounding Dick.
Man, just when you think things might settle, boom, new character. The Honorable Cecil Grosvenor arrives.
Honorable in name only, it seems. The description is pretty damning. Dressed like a miner. But red face, scraggly mustache, bloodshot eyes, a nasty scar. Villain vibes immediately.
Yeah, not subtle. And he makes his presence felt pretty quickly, right? Runs into Colonel Tubbs.
He does. And he doesn't mess around, drops the polite act, reveals his real identity. Arkansas Alf Kennedy. The Ghoul.
Yeah.
Leader of the Dakota Danites.
Arkansas Alf. The Ghoul. That sounds terrifying. Tubbs is scared.
Oh, yeah. Terrified. Alf basically threatens him into silence, says Tubbs better keep his mouth shut about who he really is and what he's doing in Whoop Up. Establishes himself as seriously dangerous right off the bat.
So this guy is bad news, potentially organized bad news if he leads the Danites, and he's operating under a fake name. Cecil Grosvenor. Or another one.
He uses another alias with Sandy, runs into him at the Macedon Saloon, introduces himself as Augustus Van Horn.
Augustus Van Horn, seriously? Okay, so multiple aliases. And how does Sandy handle him?
Sandy's initially polite, cautious, declines a drink with a stranger. Grosvenor or Van Horn or Alf pushes it. Sandy still hesitates.
And then Alf reveals himself again.
Yep. Drops the Van Horn name, tells Sandy he's Arkansas Alf. The threat is just hang in there. Alf seems confident, maybe thinks fear is enough to control people.
But Sandy doesn't seem easily rattled, based on what we know.
No, he seems more observant than intimidated. And that observation leads to one last, really intriguing bit.
Go on.
Sandy later sees Grosvenor Elf leaving his own shanty, and he catches a glimpse of Dusty Dick inside, apparently unaware Elf had even been there.
Wait, what? Arkansas Elf was in Sandy's shanty with Dusty Dick, and Dick didn't know.
Seems like it. Or at least Dick didn't seem aware when Sandy saw them, so what was Elf doing there? Does he know who Dick is? Is Dick connected to Elf somehow? So many questions.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's a lot to chew on just from these opening bits. So let's recap the big mysteries we're left with.
All right. First, who is Dusty Dick, really? And what's this secret that makes marriage completely impossible?
Then Arkansas Elf. What's his game and whip up? Why the aliases? What are the Dakota Danites planning?
And Sandy himself.
Yeah.
What's his backstory? Why so reserved? How's he going to handle Alf and Madam Minnie and protecting Dick?
Plus, we've got Calamity Jane floating around, this larger-than-life figure. How does she fit into all this?
Exactly. It's a powder keg, really. You've got Calamity's audacity, Sandy and Dick's fragile secret alliance, Madam Minnie's scheming, and Alf's menacing presence.
It's definitely a rich setup. It gives you that glimpse into the Wild West you're talking about, hidden identities, danger around every corner, strange alliances forming. Ticks all the boxes for why you probably sent this in.
For sure. It sets up themes of, identity, what's real, what's deception, how people survive when the rules are loose. What does honor even mean in a place like Whoop Up?
Right. Which leads us to a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. Given who these people are, what we've seen so far, what kind of clashes, what kind of trials do you think are coming?
Yeah, how will Calamity Jane's boldness play out against Alf's ruthlessness? Can Sandy's quiet strength protect Dusty Dick's secret? And whose secrets are going to explode first?
Honor versus deception. Survival. It feels like things are about to get very interesting in the Black Hills. The stage is definitely set.